Awesome. And we are live. Jennifer,
We're live.
thank you for joining me again.
Yes, it's a pleasure to be here. See you again, Lewis.
Oh, thanks. It's also early for you, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, not too early, thankfully,
Okay.
but
Fine. So you had your coffee, set yourself down.
Had my coffee. Yep. Ready to start the day. Took my doggy for a walk.
Oh,
yeah.
I was just saying, actually, my kids are desperate for a dog. So maybe at some point we'll get a little dog. We've got a cat, which is really sweet, but maybe we'll get a little dog as well. We'll see.
Yeah, I always had dogs, but as a parent, I never wanted a dog. But then my kids finally convinced me because my eldest was so into animals, and we were at the 4-H fair, which is where you show sheep and farm animals. And I saw her one day in the sheep pen, like snuggling in the corner with a sheep. And I was like, oh my gosh, a dog could not be worse than this. So I was like, I need to get this child a pet. So yeah, but they were a little older. Yeah, they need to be able to help with the walks, I think.
Yeah. It's also nice to get out, especially over this last year. What a great excuse to get out for a walk. It's been awesome. So right, what we're going to speak about. Thank you first, also everyone for tuning in, and also for everyone watching after the event, and whether you're watching on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, wherever you want to consume it. Thank you. So I wanted to speak with Jennifer about. I'm doing a little series on the core qualities that I think are really important for people in business and leadership generally. And the two that Jennifer wanted to speak about was passion and empathy. So we're going to dive into passion and empathy. And passion's great. Let's start with passion. What is passion exactly? Is there a kind of standard definition of?
I mean, I think of passion as just a strong feeling or desire for something. So it's, I wore red because it's connection to the heart. And, I love the love series and theme, which is in business, we come so often from our heads and we're so linear. And if we encompass kind of the heart and the gut and just ourselves as a whole person, I feel like that's related to passion too. It's like when you can really feel that you want something and you can communicate from that place.
Yeah, it's also with work, it's amazing, right? Because if you're passionate about the thing you do for work, you can work for hours and hours and it just doesn't feel like work at all. It's just it's incredible, right? But there's also so much pressure as well. Like you see it a lot on social media. Find something you're passionate about. You've got to be passionate about your job, and also I think it's quite a lot of pressure as well. Like, do you have to be passionate about your job? Is another interesting thing.
Yeah, totally. I was actually coaching a new client the other day, and we were coming up with a life purpose statement. So I may have shared this with you earlier. I know we've chatted about this before, but oftentimes it's great to come up with just that sentence that is, who are you at your best, and what do you want to do, and what is the impact you want to have in the world? And it's kind of your North Star. And sometimes people think, oh, it has to be, I'm going to cure cancer, or I'm going to solve all the world's problems. And it doesn't have to be kind of that grandiose. So I think people they get intimidated, like, oh my gosh, what am I passionate about? What am I going to do? And it can be something on a smaller scale, just that makes you feel really good about yourself or excited, or like you said, in flow, like you're doing something and you don't even notice the time is passing.
Yeah. You can also see when someone's passionate about something, like energy's high, they're just super into it. And it's really like, you just want to be around people like that, they're really just galvanizing. But it's hard to find. I mean, for me, it took a while. Like because like when you start, you go to school and your education and stuff, it's all just set out for you. Like you're going to do your exams, you do well, you go to university, or maybe you go into whatever. And then suddenly you're in this world of work and you're like, what do I actually enjoy? And mentally it takes a while to get your head around it, I think.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people, I agree with what you said, and they get into something just because it's, the recruiter comes to campus, or it's a prestigious job or something like that. And then they get on this track, right? Or they do well, and one thing leads to another. And then they wake up 20 years later and say, wait, why am I doing this? And so, it can be, I think it's more in vogue now to at an earlier point, really ask yourself some of those tough questions, like what really fulfills me, or what makes me excited, or, what is the difference I want to make.
So is that what you do? So if someone's looking to find their passion, it's just sitting down, asking yourself tough questions.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. You say tough questions. I have a process, of course. It's funny because I have a way I work with clients verbally, right? So in session, we'll do it. And then I also have, for those who prefer self-work, a very long worksheet. And I actually developed that because I was working with a group of 4 people, and we didn't have time to do all the one-on-one things. So I would assign them homework, and then we'd come back and discuss. And yeah, it is those tough questions, only tough because we're not used to thinking about that, right? So the first part of the process is really, who are you at your best? And so it's things like, how would you describe yourself, or how would your best friend describe you, or who is a person you admire? And you're really trying to get at, what are your strengths and gifts? So as you show up as someone amazing and passionate, who are you? And then the second part is, what do you want to be doing? And oftentimes the things we want to do that are important to us are things that helped us along the way, right? So lessons that we've learned. So for example, for me, I've learned a lot about myself and what makes me excited through some really difficult parenting situations, right? And life situations. And so the lessons of letting go and not worrying about external affirmation as much, or not caring about prestigious, kind of I have a client who called them the next badge, oh, well, this is impressive, I'll do that. So oftentimes the things that really helped us are things that we want to carry forward and help other people with.
Yeah, that's true. So we call it, I've got, like, don't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah.
That's like, it's a similar thing, but it's hard to do, because also the other thing is economics. Like, you want a job because you need to earn money. So you kind of get into a job, and then, you're earning money, and then you get used to a certain lifestyle. And it's sometimes then it's difficult to then think about, you might like your job, you might not. You hear all of this stuff around, you've got to do something you're passionate about.
Yeah.
And then sometimes, people can get a bit lost. I think it's also fine, to find your passion outside of work as well. Yeah. Like, does it have to be the job?
Yeah, well, it's interesting you said that, outside of work. I that's absolutely a place where you can nurture these either hobbies or desires or volunteer work. Also, I don't know if in the UK, in the US, they have this term like passion projects, right? So you have your regular job, and then, oh, what's your passion project? And there are actually some companies that encourage people to do these passion projects. So it's outside of your normal responsibilities, but things that you're excited about.
Like a side hustle or something.
Yeah, a side hustle in your job. Yeah, which can be, it can be challenging, right? Because if you have your job, and as you know, and I know, we're all so busy and we work long hours, and it's hard to find that extra. And so being really thoughtful about it, and sharing with, I guess, senior management or your coworkers what the impact would be of you working on this. Because oftentimes, if we're passionate about something, it's going to boost morale. It's going to probably make you do the other parts of your job better. And more times than not, it's going to have a positive impact on the company and the customer and the stakeholders. And so it's a question of not saying, oh, I'm exaggerating, but like, oh, I'm bored in my job, I wish I could do something more interesting. It's more like, this is my vision for what I want for this company. And I got this covered. And here's what I'd also like to create. And even as I'm saying that, even though I'm literally talking about a fake idea, I'm like, oh, that sounds fun. So oftentimes, people feel like, oh, I need to stay within the lines. And the key is to really go outside. I have my phone case, actually. I don't know if I've ever shown you that. That's my phone cover.
Oh,
it's
nice.
It's reminding me to
palette of colors.
Yeah, exactly. And it's reminding me to use all my colors and then not be afraid to color outside the lines. Because, I grew up very linear like that.
Love that.
Yeah.
I found out only recently that what I'm most passionate about, and the thing I get most energy from, is meeting people and having conversations.
Yeah.
Having conversations like this, I have, as a headhunter, I'm having conversations all day. And so sometimes I need to recharge myself. But I get a lot of energy from meeting people, and I'm really passionate about it. And that just feeds into stuff. But it takes a long time to realize that. And I get that from my job, which I'm really lucky for. I can also get that from staying in touch with my friends, calling them regularly, and things like that. So it does take time. It takes time to appreciate and be self-aware and sit down and think about it.
Yeah, definitely. And another exercise I do with clients is I have them think about a project or a time when they did feel in flow, like what you were saying, when you lose track of time and you feel successful, not in the way of, I got this promotion, but you really feel like I'm killing it, or I'm not judging myself. And instead of just thinking about that, I have them close their eyes and really return to that moment. So feeling that excitement and really connecting with, what is it that is so exciting about that moment, right? What does it feel like, and what strengths are they bringing to the table? So you're almost connecting people with a time when they felt that way, and not that they have to repeat that same experience, but trying to call out, okay, what was it you were doing? So for me as a coach and a trainer, I want to really ignite that spark of greatness in people. I want people to know that, like, you're amazing and you can set out and do whatever you want. And if there are barriers, it's okay. That's normal. We can knock them down. And so when I think about things that were really exciting to me, like even I have a recent client who got passed over for a promotion, and we worked on how she could really show up and level up. So she was kind of waiting for permission to do a more senior job and kind of staying again in the lines. And I said, what if you just decided what you want to do and took your ideas and just started literally doing that idea, even though it's not your current job? And she was like, wait, what? And she did that. And then she got promoted 2 months later. And it's so exciting. So that's what turns me on. And so, I discovered that through thinking, when am I like super excited about things,
I love that. I've been saying it for ages. Like, you've got to take ownership of your career. You can't just wait for the opportunities to come. This lady, go to your boss and be like, what are the top 3 things that I can take off your plate? Like, let me do
exactly. Yeah. Because oftentimes I love that, because oftentimes people say, oh, what could I do? Or even getting feedback. How am I doing? And I always recommend that too for feedback. What is one thing I can do to make your life easier? And or what, like you said, what are 3 things I can? And so it's learning to ask questions in a way where you'll get an answer that can really help you versus how am I doing? And people are uncomfortable with asking for feedback in general.
So you're coming across as passionate. You're like, I really love this. These are the things I really want to do. If you come across as passionate, again, if people like that, like people will kind of want to give you more stuff. They'll want to promote you. They'll want to, Yeah.
And I find a big barrier for some people too is bringing in permission to bring in the personality and the passion. And oftentimes we think in binary terms, so black or white. So I need to be serious because this is a serious job. And if I bring in the excitement and the passion and the gestures and the heart, then all of a sudden, I don't have all those other qualities. And the great thing is you can have both. And so I found that I hate to generalize, but I find that for women who have had to really, go in and often in fields that are male dominated, exert a lot of that male energy, there's really a calling to bring in some more of that passion, excitement, and know that you're still intelligent, you're still smart, you still know your stuff, and it's okay. And it'll just make you more interesting, right?
100%. Because everyone talks about being authentic, right?
Yeah.
Your authentic self to work and stuff like that. But now look, this last year, you're in your house, I'm in mine. I mean, like everyone is authentic now. Like, everyone's kind of, the suit has come off almost. Like that facade has been, and people gravitate more towards people that are coming across as like their normal selves. I think that's the way forward now.
Yeah, it's so great. And the pandemic, obviously, so many negative things and so many sad things and sickness and death and all that. And some of these leadership lessons that, frankly, people have needed, the world has needed, have been kind of thrust upon us, right? Like, it's okay if your kid is in the background, or it's okay if, I don't know, you stand up and oops, you're wearing your pajama bottoms. I don't know. We're all human, right?
I think we've got a couple of comments. Let's put a couple of comments on for the passion, and then we can dive into empathy.
Okay.
Right, let me max out here. So passion is not something that you can create in the laboratory of marketing. Passion is inside every person. The key challenge is to discover how to unlock that passion. Several ways to do it. Yeah, definitely. We spoke a bit about that, haven't we? Like, do your questions, like, be introspective. And hopefully that can. The other thing for me is just try stuff. I mean, it's fine to.
Exactly. Right. And it doesn't have to be sometimes people get really bogged down with, is it the right decision? Is it the right choice? And if you have the experimentation mindset, you try things and then you pivot. And if it doesn't work out, you can change course. There's a great book by Stanford. There's a class, it's called Designing Your Life. And it's a book that walks you through these kinds of exercises where they have a gas tank, like empty to full, and you measure, you keep a log of your daily activities, what makes you excited, what gives you energy, what takes away energy. And so it's really being thoughtful about, what activities am I actually doing where I'm excited? Because I think oftentimes we think in terms of the organization, this is an organization that does good in the world, which is great. But oftentimes the actual job we're doing isn't something that makes us excited. So it's kind of, you want to be passionate about the overall mission of the organization. And you also have to be passionate about what you do every day, because that's your life, right? We spend so much time at work.
It's actually, you're right. It's so many people now when we're speaking about new roles and companies, they want to know what the culture and the mission is. Like, is it like is it like, is it doing something to help the planet? Is it doing something to help other humans and stuff?
Yeah.
And then it's actually what you're actually doing day to day. Like, what is your daily life and tasks? And it's that you need to love to do as well, because you've got to do that every day.
Yeah.
And if you're really into that. So let me put another, what's this lady? I guess the right balance is to be motivated when working, but also enjoy the rest of your life. Is a hard balance. I know plays a great role. Minimum of 8 hours a day, absolute minimum. I think nowadays you must enjoy what you do, because when you're at home, you're working like longer and harder being at home working and everything. You must enjoy what you do, because if not, you will be miserable. Apart from that, you need to know what better fits you in a particular moment in time, and learn how to prioritize. Yeah, I think also the other thing, just for me on that, is some people don't find their passion in work, and I think that's okay. Like, you've got to accept that you can't put if you put the stress on yourself about you've got to do something you're passionate about. Again, I think that ends up being detrimental.
Yeah. And I think there are different phases of life, right? Like, if you have young children, you might decide it's a time of your life when you're going to dial down the intensity of your work and really focus on other things. And that's okay. Right. And then later you might, I know, that this is at least my second career, maybe my third or fourth. But it's, it took me a while to really figure out what parts of what I've been doing are the parts I wanted to make my full-time job. And and it can change, and that's okay.
Hey, me too. I'd studied chemistry at university, wasn't a good scientist, went into fashion manufacturing, and then into the recruitment sector.
Yeah.
And that's cool. I mean, it's nice to try things. So let's move on to empathy.
Okay, let's.
Which, I mean, I love empathy. I think it's super important. So my understanding of empathy is really seeking to understand people's needs, like how they're feeling. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that this sounds cliche, but putting yourself in someone else's shoes, it's really, if you can picture seeing the world through their eyes, right? And so it's what's important to them and what the world looks like. And I'll never forget the first time one of my coaches did this exercise with me. It was on a personal matter. I was frustrated with my father. Surprise, right? It's like parents. But she actually had me, she said, stand up. Now, what's your dad's favorite pair of shoes? And I was thinking, seriously, we're doing this? Okay, we'll do it. And she had me close my eyes and step into his shoes and imagine seeing the world from his eyes. And it just changed me, right? And she said, what's important to you? What do you see? What do you feel? How were you raised? And the way I saw the world, she said, how does the world look? And is there room for whatever I was looking for, right? At the time, is there room for that? I was like, no, there's no room for that, because there's all this other stuff. And it just gave me, an understanding of what it was like to look at the world through this person's eyes. And that can be really hard to do, because we're all so caught up in our own story, right?
Yeah. So did you find then that putting yourself in his shoes and giving yourself, like, I guess, his perspective, it made you more empathetic towards him?
Oh, absolutely. Because you see that, honestly, and I do believe this, that, I mean, I would say all people, maybe 1%, I don't know, don't do this, but most people are really doing their best, right? And they are doing things when there's a not so great impact, it's usually because they're doing something to feel safe, or they're coming from a place of fear. And so you can not be okay with the behavior. However, if you understand that the intention is coming from a place of, usually sadness or pain or a place that you can relate to, then you can feel more empathetic towards them.
Yeah. It's hard though, right? Sometimes it's hard. I mean, it's really hard. It's tough. That you've got to work on that. I mean, it's so easy to. I mean, it's easy to say. I'm definitely need to work on it myself. Like you just have to. It's like taking a moment, and you get like, I don't know, you're frustrated or you're annoyed or something's happened, and it's great if you can put yourself in their shoes.
Yeah.
Then you can start to understand what they're.
Yeah. We actually, Elizabeth, who I know you speak to, one of my colleagues and dear friends, and I have a compassion meditation that we do with workshops sometimes. And it's really, really interesting. So the way we explain it is, so empathy is being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes, right? So you kind of see their perspective. And then compassion is having that ability plus trying to do something to better their situation, right? So let's say you have empathy. You're like, yeah, I know what it's like to be you, but I don't care. I mean, not that you would say that, but so compassion is almost taking it a step further. And so we do this visualization where everyone closes their eyes and you imagine giving yourself compassion. So give yourself care and then picture someone sitting across from you whom you love, right? Or someone you have a really good relationship with. So a family member or a dear colleague or a friend, and send them compassion. Then we have them visualize someone who they're not really in a great relationship with, not a great place with, and try to send them some compassion. And usually people, they freeze up and we say, that might be difficult because someone that you find challenging, it's not easy to do that. And then we do the put yourself in their shoes. So then we say, okay, now imagine you're sitting in that person's shoes. Look at the world. What does it look like? What's important to you? What are your triggers, whatever? And then we have them come back and then try and give compassion. And people, it doesn't work with everyone, but some people, we've had workshops with 30 people and one woman's like, I got to go. I need to make a phone call. I really have not been so nice to someone I care about. And so that kind of exercise can really be life-changing because you realize, people are we're all kids inside, like we're all just little babies trying to be grown-ups.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. It's a really great skill to be able to do. It's because also you find, I speak to people, and speaking to a friend the other day actually, and he was like really frustrated about the way that his wife was thinking about a certain scenario. Mm-hmm. He was just annoyed about how she was thinking about it.
Yeah.
And then we were like having a chat, and I'm like, put yourself in her shoes, and then you start thinking, and he started to think about, okay, and then it. The stress levels, the anger levels go down a little bit, and it's tough to do. There's always scenarios at work, also with clients, personal relationships. It's just a really good skill to use. You also find with salespeople, they're trying to sell you their products, right? Yeah. Whereas so much more effective to put yourself in your clients, in your audience's shoes.
Yeah, and
then you can start thinking about what are the needs, and then you can start. Tailoring your solution and things like that. It works so well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it can be hard when people come from such a different place. So for example, one of my things is I'm a very direct person and I do not shy away from conflict or feedback, and I'd rather resolve things right away. And why would you not talk about it? One of my sisters once said, Jenny, you don't have to resolve everything every time. I was like, you don't? And so it's taken me a really long time to appreciate that there are some people who they just, as uncomfortable as not addressing something is for me, for them, giving feedback or hearing something negative is so uncomfortable. So like, it doesn't make sense to me, but then if I can put myself in their shoes and feel that fear, it can really help me alter my style, or maybe not get so annoyed. Like you said, like, why would they not do that?
It's been quite interesting also, because if we just look at the last 12 months with the pandemic, you had all of these WhatsApp groups. Everyone's like messaging, the stats for COVID. And it's funny, you've always felt like you've had a couple of different camps where people are like, I don't want to hear about the stats.
Yeah.
I'm just not interested. Like, I want to be positive. And then but then you're in a group where someone's messaging like the daily stats. And then you get annoyed. Like there's always this thing, and you're like, okay, I'm going to try and put myself, because it's hard to try and put myself in their shoes. And okay, they're anxious about getting ill. And so I know that I think that really tested people. You know, like a lot of people got off or muted their groups because people were just, you know, on the.
Yeah, and some people feel safer with the data, and others just don't want to hear it. You know, I know my son said to me, you know, Grandma's really obsessed with all of the stats, and she just needs to turn the news off. And I was like, you know what? I don't like watching all that stuff, and I guess for her, it makes her feel good. So.
Yeah. So I think with empathy, to sum up, it will. So with clients, it will enable you to have a much better understanding, I think. Team, if you're running a team as well, you'll just get closer. Like I found some of my most, I've had one or two great leaders and managers I've worked for, and their big skill was empathy. Like it was just really sitting down, trying to understand where I was coming from, what my needs are, and things like that. I think, you know, for leaders who have got a load of empathy, it's just such a, you know, you want to be working with them.
Yeah, and when you said finding out things about you, because the first thing that came to me was curiosity, and that's what you said about the leaders who are great, is they ask you questions. And I think some people who don't necessarily, not that they don't have these skills, but they're not as developed, they feel sometimes like the underlying blockage is, oh, I should know what I'm doing, right? And I should state things as fact, and I'm the leader. And we know that bringing curiosity, asking questions, you know, connecting with people is so important. And so it's almost, I find in a lot of my coaching work, it's giving people permission to ask questions, to say they don't know, to get curious, and to realize that that is part of the job. It's not only the task things.
Yes,
you know?
Definitely. Let's finish with one more question. Let's see here. This is on empathy. Empathy is the opposite to selfishness. We live in a selfish generation where authentic empathy is difficult to find. Before labeling a behavior like empathetic, you have to understand the source of it. Is it just a way to impress others, influence others, or is it authentic way of behavior? Great question. I think it's probably a bit of both. I mean, you know, if you're in business and you're in sales and you're managing, being empathetic is certainly a way to lead others and to influence others. Not that that's a bad thing, though.
Yeah. And I think what this question gets at for me too is giving lip service to things, or, you know, just like, oh, I'm going to pretend to care about people and just say something, and I don't really. And so I think it's important to, you know, if you don't feel comfortable with certain language, find language that works for you, right? And find a way to look at the world through someone else's eyes. And if it's asking them, again, let's say there are people who are super focused on business, say, you know, what's one thing about your leadership style that you really want to work on, right? Like, if you don't have to ask, how are you feeling? How is your family? Because some people are like, oh, that's not me. So what is you? You know, what do you want to get curious about? What do you want to know about this person?
Yeah. And also I think it's, you know, in business, I mean, you know, there's always, you know, there's motives, right? Like you want to make money, or you want to make a sale, and that's okay. I mean, that's, you know, that's life. But I think, you know, if you find people to work with, to work for, that have a real high degree of empathy, like genuinely interested in you, in your well-being, or in whatever service or product they want to sell to you, but what your needs are, I think that's fine. You know, like that's how the world works.
Yeah. That's how the world works. Yep. And we can bring in the heart.
Definitely. Cool. Thank you so much. It was really cool.
Lewis. Yeah.
Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. We'll do another one soon as well. We'll do some more core qualities, but I really appreciate it.
Sounds good.
Again.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you everyone for joining. Cool. See ya.